ये मजदूर संघ वाले क्या कहते हैं, जो आरएसएस की शाखा से निकले हुए स्वयं मजदूर संघ चलाते हैं, वो कहते हैं वर्कर्स यूनाइट द वर्ल्ड।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's podcast with Lex Friedman has taken the world by storm. US President Donald Trump, Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and pretty much everyone else had a lot to say about the 3-hour marathon podcast. While a lot of clips from the podcast were circulated widely across all social media platforms, there was one particular comment Narendra Modi made that has flown under the radar. During his conversation with Friedman, the Prime Minister mentioned an obscure organization called the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh. This organization has been working tirelessly in the field of labor rights, a domain usually believed to be the monopoly of communist organizations. The Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, or BMS in short, broke the back of communist influence among workers at a time when no one even thought this was possible. But who laid the foundation of BMS? Who was the visionary who understood the pulse of India's labor force? Namaskar and welcome to the Bharat Perspective. And today we will discuss the history of the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh and how it took on the might of the communists and the Indian National Congress at a critical juncture in Indian history. So, the year was 1955. India had been independent for 8 years and communists were increasing their hold over the peasants and workers of the country. It was then that Dattopant Thengadi, a passionate 35-year-old from Maharashtra, decided the perverse influence of communism could be ignored no more. So he decided it was the time to establish a workers' organization that looked after the interests of the Indian workers, but at the same time did not subscribe to the toxic ideology of communism. Dattopant Thengadi in 1950-51 was the organizing secretary of the Indian National Trade Union Congress, the workers' wing of the Congress Party. Later, very briefly, he had a brief fling with the Communist Workers' Union as well. But after his experiences with them, Dattopant Thengadi came to the conclusion that trade unions such as INTUC, CITU and AITUC were more interested in politics and capturing power than the welfare of the people they claim to represent. Thengadi ji realized that continuous strikes, protests and conflict cannot be the path forward for the Indian worker. And protesting for the sake of protesting is not a strategy for success. In fact, it is a sure shot way to ensure that Indian industry and economy is paralyzed forever. He realized that there was a dire need to establish trade unions that subscribed to the Bharatiya train of thought. And this realization led him straight to the arms of RSS stalwarts like Guru Golwalkarji and Deen Dayal Upadhyay. And so, the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh was born. The BMS was founded with a clean mission: to fight for workers' rights through dialogue, not protests. Unlike communist trade unions, BMS does not endorse the ideology of constant bunds, strikes and the destruction of industries. Instead, it focuses on dialogue, development, skill enhancement programs and efforts towards making workers self-reliant. The road ahead was not at all easy, but then again, it hardly ever is. What began as an idea has now transformed into the largest labor organization in the country. Only 35 workers had attended the meeting for the formation of the BMS in Bhopal in 1955. And now, the BMS has more than 1 crore members. The core difference between the BMS and other trade unions was that while the latter believed in capturing political power at all costs, even sacrificing the interest of the workers in the process. On the other hand, BMS considered itself to be above politics. While the communists chanted "Workers of the world unite," the BMS believed "Workers unite the world." While the communists hate Hinduism and everything associated with it, the BMS celebrates Vishwakarma Jayanti as the National Labour Day. During the 1962 Indo-China War, while the Indian communists were busy cheering for China, The BMS through the Rashtriya Mazdoor Morcha assisted the Indian government and the army in its war efforts. The BMS crossed the 10 lakh membership mark for the first time in 1978. In another 6 years, it doubled its membership to 20 lakhs. And by 1996, the membership had grown to 46 lakhs. And in 2025, the membership stands at over 1 crore. That is quite the journey. Dattopant Thengadi, a man ahead of his times. Dattopant Thengadi was a visionary. He had already predicted the fall of communism in India way back in the 1960s, at a time when communists were at their peak. Today, of course, we see that the communists have been wiped out of West Bengal and Tripura, and they are in government in only one single state, Kerala. Dattopant Thengadi opposed communism, but he did not embrace capitalism either. Instead, in his book The Third Way, he presented a socio-economic model based on Bharatiya culture, one that promotes growth without blindly imitating the West. He warned against westernization in the name of modernization in the 19th chapter of his book and proposed an economic model that puts Indian values, Indian labor and Indian enterprises first. India First Thengadi didn't just work for industrial workers. He also founded the Bharatiya Sangh for the farmers of India. Even the Mazdoor Sangh logo has crops in its logo. And right after this, the Modi government is following the footsteps of Dattopant Thengadi in framing the policies of India. Farmer-centric schemes such as PM Kisan Samman Nidhi and PM Fasal Bima Yojana are prime examples of it. Dattopant Thengadi, a Brahmin himself, dedicated his whole life for Dalits and marginalized sections of the society. His life is a further refutation of the accusation that the Sangh is against the Dalit community. In fact, he was the election agent of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. To tell you more, he completed his book on Ambedkar the same year he breathed his last. Thengadi ji did not seek benefits from any government, but rather sacrificed his life for a bigger cause. At a time when Congress ecosystem groveled before the Nehru-Gandhi family, he often spoke against the Vajpayee government when he believed that it was the right thing to do. He even called out then ministers Arun Shourie and Yashwant Sinha. At New Delhi's Ram Leela Maidan, in a massive rally organized by BMS, Dattopant Thengadi challenged the economic approach of the then NDA regime led by Vajpayee. He condemned the then finance minister Yashwant Sinha, calling his acts criminal and branding him Anarth Mantri. He even didn't think twice before refusing to accept Padma Bhushan in 2003. Yet, despite all his contributions, how often do we hear about Dattopant Thengadi's name? Why do we keep quoting Karl Marx when we talk about labor movements? Why do we look at Western labor unions when we have our own Bharatiya model, the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh? It's time that we change this. It's time we recognize, respect and take pride in the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh. If you enjoyed watching our video, then please like, share and subscribe to the Bharat Perspective and let us know your thoughts in the comment section. See you in the next video. Till then, Jai Hind.